Hello ladies and gentlemen, I'm Shaostoul and this is the 19th episode of the Modding Tutorials. In this episode we're going to be discussing missile turrets. We'll be looking at the vanilla missile turret so you can acquire all the information you need without needing to download any source files from me. So what we're going to do is boot up Blender and import the FBX files that the developers provide to you through the mod SDK. So go to Import FBX, and then in the Steam Apps common folder we should see all of our games. Space Engineers Mod SDK is the one that we want. Go into Original Content, Models, Cubes, Large, and then here we see a whole bunch of FBX files, and we want to find the missile turret. So we're scrolling over to the right to find it. Here we can see the proper pieces, and then we have some LODs and then some construction models. So we're going to import the base first. Alright, so here it is, and as we can see the orange cube here is not reflecting its proper size. So what we'll do is go over into the scene data and just scale that up to 3x3, which is the size that the developers have set the vanilla missile turret to. And from there we'll discuss everything else. So I'm going to open this up, and here we can see the base piece. It is named missile turret, so you'll find a missile turret.mwm in your main folder of Space Engineers. And then we have some detector conveyors, and that will allow you to put the resources into the block as per normal. And then we have a detector terminal, which allows you to access the control panel immediately. And then we have a subpart underscore missile turret base 1. Now this is to always be named this if you're making a missile turret. If you were to change the name of this, it's not going to function properly. What this is the pivot point for the next part of the missile turret. So this is going to be the left and right movement of the missile turret. So if we import the next piece, we should see that reflected in the design of the turret. So here's the base, and here we can see that it's actually raised up. Now the reason it is doing that is because the origin point of this model is going to be exactly where this empty is. So if you take this and grab it so that the origin point snaps to that empty, that's exactly how it's going to look in game. Or at least it should, assuming nothing goes wrong. Now this next piece has another empty, but only one. This is called subpart underscore missile turret barrels. Now what this does is link to the up down movement. So this is the pivot point of the next part, and we'll go ahead and import that as well. Scroll over and grab the barrels, and I'm just going to move it up because it's not where it's supposed to be. And that origin point there, that little orange dot, needs to go on that little orange dot there. So we'll just grab it, snap it there, and it should look right. And it does for the most part. Alright, so the missile turret barrels actually have some empties of their own. They have these muzzle underscore missile underscore 001 for the first one, and this one has 6 barrels. So what's going to happen when this fires is it's going to go through sequence of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So these will fire, and then these will fire. So that pretty much could let you have a single barrel missile turret or a 24 missile barrel turret if you wanted. I'm not sure if there is a upper limit, but there might be. But I have not actually tested because that is a lot of time to actually test. Alright, so we have our missile turret and the subpart linking to the missile turret base 1. which is right there, and then the subpart missile turret barrels linking to the barrels, which are these things here. And then we have the muzzles, conveyors, terminals, and that's pretty much all the pieces of the missile turrets that you have to be concerned about. Now, these subparts actually link to the MWM files that you'll have in your mod. So if we were to open up the vanilla path, so go ahead and put this here, go to Space Engineers, go to Content, and then Models, Cubes, Large, and we should find the missile turret ones. So here they are. So these are the three pieces. Now in Blender, the missile turret links to the missile turret base 1. Now looking at the file, the name is the same as it is in here. So what we'll do is just grab this name here, go to the subpart, go to Object Data, and then just paste that name in there. So that's going to link to the base, and then this subpart needs the barrel's name. So we're going to copy that and put that there. So automatically through the game's code, this is going to grab this information and automatically apply it. And then this is going to grab this information and automatically apply it. So all you're going to be doing technically is placing down this missile turret here and doing all of your coding and everything for it. You don't have to code anything special for the rest of the turret at all. And that pretty much wraps up that part. Now, what we can do is look at the code for missile turrets. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the content area, go back to content, go to data, and go to cube blocks. And here we have the SBC. Now if you just Control F and try to find missile turret, it should take you right to it. And here you can see that everything is pretty standard. Now the definition does have an extra bit after it, so make sure you have this on your missile turret or it won't work. We have the type ID of large missile turret, and they don't have a subtype ID because it is their missile turret, but make sure you add a subtype ID. So what you do is you just get rid of that. Some missile turret is what you're making. You could just copy this, paste it over there, and throw a slash right there. And that's what you'll end up having. But they don't have that in the vanilla one, so I'm just going to get rid of it. Now the display name, you don't need to do this display name block blah 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 anymore. You can get rid of that and put your space right there, and it'll show up exactly how you want it to show up. It used to not be that way. It used to be that you had to do this whole business to actually get it to show up right. Here we can see that it has an icon. It is a cube size large. It uses the block topology of triangle mesh, which is pretty much like 95% of all the blocks in the game. And then we have the size of 3 by 3 by 3, which is represented by this orange cube here. And then we have no model offset. I usually suggest making it so you don't have to use model offset, but sometimes it makes it easier to just use it. Here we could see the model is grabbing the missile turret.mwm. It uses model intersection, and I'm not 100% sure what this translates to, because having it true and false, I've gotten the same exact results between different models and blocks and stuff. So I'm not 100% sure the point of it. If you want to keep it true, I would keep it true just so you avoid any issues that might appear. If something appears and you change this to false and it goes away, excellent. Alright, next we have the components, the critical component, mount points, build progress, block pair name, mirroring, edge type, build time, and then we're getting to some interesting stuff. So everything up here is fairly basic, and that's pretty much what you'll see in most every other block that you create. However, this stuff at the bottom is where it starts getting interesting. This overlay texture is actually the texture you'll see on your screen when you are looking through the turret. So that really horrible scan lines decal they have on the screen when you're using it, yeah, that's what this is. Next is the weapon definition ID, subtype large missile turret. So what this is doing is it's actually grabbing the information for the ammo being used in this turret. So if you were to take this turret and then just scale it down to small size, it would actually be using the same information if you were to just use this. So if I scroll down, you can actually see that their small missile turret is actually using different ammo. And that's because it's firing a smaller missile and the block size is also smaller. So it's kind of a balancing thing. If you were to model this to be the same size as it is on a small ship, then this would be whatever this is times 5. So this will end up being a 15 by 15 by 15 block. And you could use this ammo and it will directly translate between each other and you won't have to worry about any balancing issues. Next we have the inventory max volume, and this is the max amount of volume that the cargo space can actually hold, and it's up to you how you want to balance it. And I usually suggest trying to keep it somewhere where it's not holding too much ammo in it, maybe enough to get through a simple burst and be okay to reload afterwards. Next is the damage effect ID, and that's, I believe, what it's going to sound like when it's damaged. And then, no, that's the particle effect. And then the damage sound is what it sounds like when it's damaged. Here we have it in the resource sync group defense. And then we have the minimum and maximum elevation, and then the minimum and maximum azimuth. So this is going to actually limit how high or low or how far to the left and right it can aim. So with these settings, it should technically be able to aim straight up and straight down and be able to do a whole 360-degree spin and not have to worry about any issues of it not being able to turn directly behind it. Next, the idle rotation. This means that while it is powered and is not actively tracking anything, it will randomly just look in a different direction. So you could turn this off and it will make your turrets just sit one direction while they are idling. Next is the max range in meters. So this has a range of 800. Rotation speed is it turning left and right, and then the elevation speed is going up and down. And that's all there really is to the missile turret in the cube blocks. Now, after thinking about it for a little bit, I think what this might actually pertain to is having the origin points actually snap to it. So that might actually be the case. However, I would need to do a lot of testing to actually confirm that. Alright, so the next thing we need to do is look at ammos. And this is going to actually be all of the information pertaining to the missile type. So here we can see that there's a missile, we have small, large caliber, and it's pretty straightforward. Now what this is going to do is say how fast it travels, whether or not it can go faster or slower from when it's fired. The max trajectory, so I believe that is the max range, is explosive, so this means it's actually going to blow up. back kick force, and I believe this is actually the force imparted on your ship when you fire. So when this fires, it's putting 700 whatever against your ship to cause it to rotate or move or whatever. And you can see that in some of the modded cannons, they probably have some pretty high values set here to make your ship tumble and everything if it's really small for the cannon. Here we have the missile mass, explosion radius, so this is going to be in meters, I imagine. Missile model name, so this is the MWM of the missile projectile, so you can actually make different projectiles for what it is you're firing. Then we have the missile acceleration, so it's not going to start at max speed. We can see that it's going to start at 100 and then get to its max speed fairly quickly. Missile skip acceleration, so if this was set to true, it would automatically go to max speed, or it would go to the initial speed setting possibly. Then we have the missile explosion damage, and this is not too much in that it can take quite a long time to actually kill a large ship, especially with heavy armor. And then we have projectile material, EXP bullet. I'm not 100% what this links to at the moment. But next we're going to go and look at the next piece, which is ammo magazines. And here we can see that it's linking to NATO 5.56 and the missile 200 millimeter. So this is the missile that is being fired out of most everything else. Here we can see that it has its normal name. It has a small rocket.dds, so you're going to be making this ammo. Here it has a mass, a volume. So this is going to be the information that's going to be within the cargo containers. So it's taking up this much, it's creating this much mass, it's using up this much volume. This is the model that it's going to use when it's laying down on the ground. Its physical material type is ammo, and then it's only one ammo per magazine, I guess you could call it. Because if you look up at the rifle ammo, you can have 30 or 140, and that's because you can have more or less ammo in a single stack. Alright, so there should be a couple others that we need to look at. The next one is weapons, and I believe this is actually going to link to everything else. So here we have rifles, small missile launcher, large missile launcher. Okay, so what this one is doing is giving you the rate of fire, and this is probably rounds per minute. So this means that it's probably going to fire 67 rounds per minute. The sound that it makes when it fires, and the shots in a burst. So if you remember these barrels, these link to the burst. So you can have less and still have a burst, but if you have a 6 burst and you have 6 barrels, it just makes sense. Coming back here, we can see that it's using the missile type of the 200 millimeter, and then the reload time is 2000. And that's pretty much all there is to that. Now, so we covered the weapons, and then we covered, let's see, the cube blocks, and then we covered ammos and ammo magazine, and the other one would be sounds. Now these can be a little tricky to make if you're not used to doing any audio editing. You can use the vanilla sounds immediately and just plug them in and not worry about it too much, but if you wanted to get into making your own custom sounds, this would be the file that you use to set it up. So here we can see that it is using the shoot sound name of Wep Turt Missile Shot. So if we come in here and paste that, we should be able to find it. So it has this arc in front of it. I'm not 100% sure why, but it's not included in the name there. Here we can see it has a type ID, subtype ID as per everything else. It is a category of a weapon turret. The max distance you will hear it is probably 200 meters. And then prevent synchronization. I'm not 100% sure what that does. The distance sounds that you will hear when it's fired further and further away from you. The volume of the overall sound. So if you set that to 1, it's going to be the max volume that you hear from your speakers, as with everything else. Or if you can lower it, it will make it sound a little bit more quiet, so you're not blowing out people's eardrums. Here we can see that they have multiple versions of it, so it will cycle through these different versions when you're firing the missiles. And that's pretty much all that is for the missile turret sound. And that pretty much wraps this up. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave a comment in the comment section below, and I will try to answer your questions as quickly as I can and try to make it as easy as possible for you. And if you'd like to help me continue doing what it is I do, please be sure to like, subscribe, and check out my Patreon page through the link in the description below. All donations go towards helping me create more mods, videos, as well as help more people learn to create their own mods. I'll catch you guys in the next episode. Have a good one.